Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought one careless joke could end marriage. I always believed real problems came from betrayal, money, or secrets, not a sentence tossed into the air during an ordinary evening. My name is James. I'm 39, and until recently, I thought my marriage to Elizabeth was stable, if a little worn around the edges. We've been together 11 years. Long enough for passion to soften into routine, for laughter to become quieter, for intimacy to feel scheduled instead of spontaneous. Still, I considered us solid. We had careers, a comfortable home, shared friends, and a rhythm that worked. I wasn't looking for perfection. I just wanted peace. That night started like many others. We were in the kitchen after dinner, the dishwasher humming, glasses of wine half full. Elizabeth was scrolling on her phone, smiling at something I couldn't see. I made a comment about a show we'd watched earlier, something about how couples always exaggerate their chemistry on screen. She laughed and said, "Real life is never like that." I shrugged and said, "Yeah, I mean, none of us are exactly setting records anymore." It was light, lazy banter. Then, without thinking, I added, "My ex was probably better in bed anyway." The words landed heavier than I expected. Elizabeth stopped scrolling. She looked up at me, eyes steady, unreadable. I smiled, waiting for her to laugh or fire back with her own joke. Instead, there was a pause. A long one. I felt a flicker of discomfort. "I'm kidding," I said quickly, obviously. She nodded once and took a sip of her wine. "Okay," she said. Just that. No anger. No argument. No follow-up. That should have reassured me, but it didn't. The rest of the evening felt off, like the air had shifted. She went to bed early. I stayed up, telling myself I was overthinking it. If you've ever said something you couldn't take back and felt it change a room instantly, tap like so this story can reach others who've lived that moment. The next few days were strange in subtle ways. Elizabeth wasn't cold, but she was distant, polite, efficient. She answered questions without elaboration. She stopped initiating small talk. When I tried to joke, she smiled without warmth. On the fourth day, I finally asked if something was wrong. She looked at me calmly and said, "I've just been thinking." That was all. I started replaying the joke in my head. The tone, the timing. I told myself she knew me better than that. She knew I didn't mean it. We'd both made careless remarks before. This would pass. It didn't. A week later, she asked if we could talk after dinner. We sat at the table, the same place where I'd made the joke. Her hands were folded. Mine weren't. She said, "When you compare me to your ex, it told me something." I started to interrupt, to explain, but she held up her hand. "Not what you meant," she said. "What you felt comfortable saying." I told her it was humor. Bad humor. I apologized. I said I loved her. I said she was enough. She listened, then said, "I don't want to be someone you joke about settling for." That word stuck. Settling. I'd never thought of it that way. Comment below if you believe jokes reveal truth, or if you think intent matters more than words. I'm curious where you stand. After that conversation, something in Elizabeth hardened. She wasn't angry. She was resolved. She started spending more time out. Long walks, late meetings, quiet evenings alone in the bedroom with the door closed. I tried harder. Compliments, date nights, touches that lingered a second longer. She accepted them politely, like gestures from a stranger. One night, lying beside her, I whispered, "Do you still want me?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I don't know anymore. If you think that single sentence can change everything, type shift in the comments." I felt panic then. Real panic. I suggested counseling. She said she'd think about it. I suggested time away together. She said space might be better. 2 weeks later, she asked me to sit down again. Her voice was steady, practiced. She said she'd spoken to a lawyer. She said my joke hadn't caused this, but it clarified things she'd been avoiding. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. Share this story with someone who believes words don't matter, especially when spoken casually. She said she wanted a divorce. Not because of another man. Not because of one night. Because she no longer felt desired for who she was. I told her I took it seriously. She nodded. That's why I am too. Before part 2, tell me in the comments, can a marriage survive a joke that cuts too close? And if this story made you think, like, comment, and subscribe to follow how this ends. Elizabeth moved quickly after that conversation. Within days, she was sleeping in the guest room. Within weeks, paperwork arrived. The speed of it all made me feel like I'd been standing still while she quietly packed her exit. I kept waiting for a moment where she'd soften, where she'd say this was all happening too fast. It never came. We told friends together. Or rather, she told them, and I nodded. The story was simple. We'd grown apart. No blame. No scandal. People nodded with that polite sadness reserved for things they don't want to understand too deeply. No one asked what actually happened. I didn't volunteer it. Inside, I was unraveling. I replayed that night constantly, searching for the exact second I crossed a line, the tone of my voice, the way I smiled, whether some part of me had believed the joke before I said it. I hated that question most of all. Living alone in the house we'd shared felt unreal. Her coffee mug was gone. Her shoes weren't by the door. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was accusatory. Every room reminded me of what she decided without me. One afternoon, while sorting through documents, I found an old photo of us. Early days. Sunburned, laughing, arms wrapped tight. We looked proud of each other. I stared at it longer than I should have, wondering when pride turned into comparison. Elizabeth and I spoke only when necessary. Logistics. Lawyers. Dates. She was calm. I was careful. There was no fight left in either of us. That, more than anything, told me it was really over. A month before the divorce was finalized, we met to sign the last set of papers. The office was quiet, sterile. When it was done, she gathered her coat and hesitated. For a second, I thought she might say something that would pull us back into the same emotional orbit. Instead, she said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." I nodded. "I hope you do, too." She left. I stayed seated longer than necessary, staring at my name on the page. Divorced. Official. Over. It took time to understand what I'd lost. Not just my marriage, but my certainty. I'd always believed love eroded because of big betrayals. I didn't realize how dangerous small dismissals could be. A joke. A comparison. A moment where someone feels measured instead of chosen. Friends tried to comfort me. They said she overreacted. That people say stupid things. That 11 years shouldn't end over a sentence. Maybe they were right. Or maybe they'd never been on the receiving end of realizing their partner was still keeping score. I started therapy, mostly to quiet the noise in my head. The therapist asked me why I'd made the joke. I said I didn't know. He waited. Silence has a way of forcing honesty. Eventually, I admitted that I'd been insecure. That part of me worried Elizabeth no longer wanted me. And instead of saying that, I deflected with humor, a shield disguised as arrogance. By the time I understood that, it was too late to matter. Months later, I ran into Elizabeth by chance at a grocery store. She looked well. Lighter. She smiled, genuinely this time. We exchanged pleasantries. Nothing more. As she walked away, I didn't feel anger or longing, just acceptance. The truth settled slowly. Then all at once, the joke hadn't ended my marriage. It had revealed the distance that already existed and removed her willingness to ignore it. Words don't create cracks from nothing. They expose the ones already there. I still think about her sometimes. Not with regret. Exactly. More like awareness. A reminder that intimacy isn't just physical and respect isn't just intention. It's how safe someone feels standing next to you, knowing they aren't being compared to a past they can never compete with. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Some jokes aren't harmless. They're confessions we don't realize we're making. And sometimes, the moment someone takes them seriously is the moment everything finally becomes honest.